The human body is a miracle. One of the most inexplicable phenomena in this world. We ought to realize it. It exists without your permission and dies only if it is forced to. How many times have you had to tell your heart to beat? Or your lungs to breathe? Or your mind to think? How many times have you had to tell your body to be this color? To grow this hair? Love this gender? See, you exist as you do for a reason, with life in you. Are we really so different? Is your body inform you of your purpose, ask you permission to be here? And if you believe in a higher power, does your body exist any more than those who do not call that power God? Are we really so different? And if I am woman, does this mean that I should be too weak, too docile, to create whole human beings inside of myself? And if I am man, should this mean that I should be too strong to be part of such a fragile process? And if I am colored, does my blood blacken too? Do my lips break from holding my tongue too tight? Have you ever been forced to be afraid it is not just a black thing? Because what if I am foreign? My existence somehow has been strong enough to withstand being stood on for better view of dreams that happen to be American. But does your body dream any less vividly if you are not born an American? And if you are one, do you ever feel lonely? Is that a white thing? A gay thing? Do you ever feel angry? Should that only be reserved for Native women, Black, Latino, Asian, Arabic women? And if I am born, am I any less of a human being for being born like this? If I do not meet your standards of able-bodied, does that mean I am any less capable of achieving greatness? And if I am, who created such a standard? Did you mold this earth with your own hands? Is it okay if I just exist here for a while? Does it ever cross your mind that we are human beings breathing on this earth on purpose? I never asked my heart to beat. I never asked for the skin that stretches over my bones, but don't your bones look a lot like mine? If I were to share with you secrets, if the bodies around you were to share with you secrets, would you listen? I was asked to introduce conversations about diversity at the university I attend. And so I'd written that poem. And I thought that if I could disconnect the superiority and we could look at ourselves as human, we would understand how worthy of respect that existence really is. You see, because I think in this society it's very easy to categorize people and say, oh, he's only black, she's only female, they're only foreign. And you allow that to determine the value of that human body standing in front of you when it should really be the content of their character. And I used to think that if we could just learn how to respect each other as human beings, the world would be a better place. That was short-lived. Because then I realized this other side of things. I learned what economics was. And I realized sometimes oppression is not simply race-specific. It is class-specific. Sometimes you just have to have enough money to matter in America. And now there's plenty of examples around the society that can prove that to be true, but the one that hits me the hardest is this thing called gentrification. Now, for those of you who do not know what this means, it's when high-income investors will invest in a lower economic class area. And by capitalizing on those land values, they raise the cost of lending tremendously. So what you see as new stores and nice homes, we see as rising rents in an unaffordable market. The place we call home may no longer be our home in a matter of days. But you see, what perplexes me most about gentrification is the fact that as a community, if we were economically unified, we could address this problem. But we can hardly be socially unified. Let all those categories get in the way. And so misunderstandings turns into less than, turns into you don't matter as much as me. Becomes about the protest instead of how many of people staying unified the days, the weeks, the months after the protest. Now, I'm not saying we need to all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, but I come from a class and an ethnic background of people who have been brushed over generation after generation after generation, and I am tired for all of my ancestors. Can we just put away this illogical social war so we can focus on this economic enormity tearing our communities apart from the inside? See, I often wonder why we can't do this. And then I realize it becomes very hard to believe in your ability to change your circumstance when you're always worried about the category. See, every day I see people suffer. Truly hungry mothers. Men left faceless over mindless disagreements. Babies hateful because the grass has not ever been green on this side before. Inadequate health care still. Unequal education still. Inadequate housing still. And when an investor sees these trends in the community, he says, wow, this is a wonderful area, a blank canvas. And sometimes I wonder why we can't look at ourselves and think of ourselves as our own investment. Is it because we don't believe in ourselves enough? Or do we really not have the tools available to pull ourselves out of the situation? I used to ask myself this question every day, and then I started asking other people, and I realized it was both. Because not only did we not believe in ourselves, but sometimes that disbelief can be the only thing standing in your way from creating the tools that you need. See, if you were to deduce gentrification down to a simple action, it is the funding of the development of a new environment. If we were able to fund the development of our own environment, maybe we could turn dilapidated housing into a new standard of living so we aren't paying market price for near slums. Maybe we could turn unequal education into collaboratively designed schools so our children really don't get left behind. And maybe we could stop building our communities with toxic materials and turn that into an intolerability for poisoning human beings based on their socioeconomic status. Now, most people will look at the enormity of these problems and say, oh, that might cost millions, I could never. And he would fail to realize that as a collective, we could. Now, this phenomenon I'm talking about, it already exists in this society. It's called crowdfunding. And everybody knows about it, see? But when you start talking about real estate, when you start talking about renovation, when you start talking about true urban development, those platforms that everybody knows about, they don't exist for communities like mine, for people like me. See, not only when you go on these platforms are there no projects in the community of where I live, but it's also completely out of my price range. You see, in most cases, to even start investing, it is $1,000 to $5,000 at a time. Now, I don't have spare thousands, I have spare change, but I did the math. And I realized that if 20% of my community rounded their purchases up to the nearest dollar, that'd be $3.2 million at the end of the year. Now, I want you to really realize what I'm saying here. Not my country, not 20% of my state, not my city, my community. Do you see the potential there? And I kept asking myself, why does this not exist yet? This would help so many people. And then I realized, well, heck, if nobody else is going to try, I guess I will. So I got some folks together and we started competing in business plan competitions at my college. And then I realized how hard it really was going to be to secure funding when you are talking to someone who has not experienced economic oppression. So then I started talking to architects, engineers, social scientists, and they played with that idea because they knew very well that it was possible, but they were also not really willing to challenge the status quo. And then something hit me harder than ever one day. You see, I was talking to a faculty member, someone who I had looked up to for years, telling him about the difficulty we were having securing funding, and he looked me dead in my face and said to me, You're trying too hard to challenge the way things are being done here. Just worry about yourself. Be normal. World's too dark for revolutionaries. I said, too dark. Be normal. And I tried to imagine what my life would be like if the leaders before me had decided to be normal. Do you know it used to be normal to see human beings strung up by their necks in residential neighborhoods? Used to be normal. To beat and bomb babies because of the way that they were existing when they came out of their mother's womb, normal. Should it be normal to continue watching people drink poisoned water in Flint, Michigan? Should it be normal to completely ignore an entire demographic of investors when you're talking about their own living environment? Should it be normal? I hope that a lot of you are saying no. Because very often it takes somebody to stand up and say the world is just too dark not to have revolutionaries. You see, why should that word be too big for you and I? Because it doesn't mean impossible. It doesn't even mean war or violence. It simply means change. Just change. They oversimplify and overnormalize that word in the tech industry all of the time. I mean, it's, oh, we revolutionize the way people experience technology, revolutionize the way they experience virtual reality. Can we revolutionize how I experience real reality? So I can walk... so that I can walk into my community and say, wow, look at all these amazing things we created for ourselves. You see, I wrote that poem hoping that somebody would read between the lines and realize the enormity of their own human existence. How profound that is. When people try to step up, they will tell you, oh, that's too big for you. You are only, but you are never only a category, never only black or only female or only not from this country. No, you are human. You exist here for a reason. There is not much else on this earth bigger than life itself. Be that change. Be revolutionary. We have always been enough.